coaching is not a profession. It's actually a life skill. Because if you are a coach, you are out there to serve people.
So,
Period. Do I practice what I preach? It doesn't start outside. It starts inside. Am I 5 minutes late or 5 minutes early for the coaching conversation?
transformation is a responsibility.
Is a responsibility. That it's not a word to be lightly thrown around. Money is just one currency. The other currency is time, is energy. Become a coach only if you're willing to give the next 10, 20, 30 years of your life. Yes lives in the land of no. You're building it because you want to, not because you have to. Coaching is the biggest gift that keeps on giving. The biggest gift that my grandfather gave me was his undivided time to just listen to me. And I realized what it was. You are always trained to either become a doctor or an engineer. And when you don't want to become either of those, there's always a conversation that you need to have with your parents.
If you want to know more about coaching, life coaching, and the business side of it, this episode is for you. This episode is like an encyclopedia of coaching and its business. In this episode, Siddharth Anantharam, who has served more than 1,000 coaches, entrepreneurs, and creative visionaries to attain their highest potential. He has worked in Mindvalley for more than 8+ years, and he has shared everything about coaching in this episode. Broken down the definition of coaching from A to Z. He has shared everything about coaching and how one can start a coaching business. So without further ado, let's start our episode on Let's Talk Clarity. Welcome to Let's Talk Clarity podcast, and today we are having a very special guest, Siddharth. Siddharth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. Pleasure
you.
to be here.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. You don't need any introduction. Everyone knows you about your coaching skill and everything. But let's start. How you started your career as a coach, and why? Why coaching? What drives you to dive deep into coaching?
Wow, that question almost has 15 years of experiences that just popped in my mind as you asked that question. But Rakesh, I think my journey to coaching started almost 15 years back.
15 years back, yeah.
Yeah, and let me rewind 15 years back when I remember first graduating out of St. Xavier's College in Bombay. And in my circle of friends, I was always the person who did exactly the opposite of what everyone else expected.
Okay.
Right? And I was consider me to be the black sheep of the family and my friend circle. Right? My parents always wanted me to, go into engineering.
Engineering,
And
yeah.
I remember giving every single engineering entrance exam in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, every single one, like from IIT JEE to BITS Pilani to AI EEE to every single entrance exam. And I remember walking out of the last exam. I still remember this is fresh and clear in my mind.
Okay.
That I remember walking out of the last exam, and I remember telling myself, if this is how much I disliked just giving the entrance exam for engineering, imagine how much I would dislike 4 years of actually studying it. Right? And that is one of my first moments where I remember where I said, listen, I'm going to just trust myself
Mm-hmm.
to what feels right for me and not go with what people around me are telling me is right for me, including my parents, including some of my closest friends. And that was the first moment where I just trusted my own instinct to say, listen, I want to do something different. And I remember pursuing that feeling and going and studying economics in St. Xavier's. Why economics? Because at that point of time, I wanted to understand the world better.
Okay.
How people operate, how the world operates, how everything works together. And economics I found is a fascinating subject to study that.
So here, just I want to take a pause,
Yeah.
and let's take it slow.
Yeah.
Because you were started with appearing for exams for engineering, and you were also applying everything. Your parents also wanted you to apply. But how you means broke this news to your parents? How was that day and how that go? I want to hear that one.
So great question, right? Because it's one of those conversations that you dread having with your parents, right?
Yes.
Because as any one of us growing up in India, we know that either you are always trained to either become a doctor or an engineer, and when you don't want to become either of those, there's always a conversation that you need to have with your parents, right? Who are expecting one of these two. Now,
Yes.
the truth is, I have to say that the conversation with my parents, especially my dad,
That okay.
was I made it up to be more difficult than it actually was.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
think that's what happens to a lot of us, because we feel that before when we're having the conversation with our parents, we tend to think of the worst possibility.
Lot many things. Yeah.
Yeah, we think that they're going to lose their temper, they're going to completely not trust you, they're going to completely disown the decision that you're making. All of the worst case scenarios play in your mind, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And you prepare yourself for the worst case scenarios, and a lot of us, we don't end up having that conversation because we have the worst case scenario in our head. But I realized that after going through training all of those worst case scenarios, when I actually ended up honestly having that conversation with my dad, he tried, playing the role that he's always played, which I'll come to, which is he always, every decision I would make, he would never tell me what to do. He would always get me to weigh the pros and cons.
Okay. Okay.
And as long as he knew that I had personally weighed the pros and cons of the decision, he was like, it's up to you.
It's up to yeah.
Which brings me to actually the question that you asked me initially, which is how did you get into coaching?
Yes.
I think the first coach in my life was my dad.
Wow.
Because throughout my life, he was one person who never gave me answers when I was to whatever questions I had. He just asked me more questions so that I could find and discover that answers within myself.
Within. Wow.
Right? So even with this very important decision of making a big career shift, even though imagine I've as an engineering student, I've studied for 2.5 years for all of these entrance exams, and then after giving the last entrance exam, here's your son saying, I don't want to pursue this anymore. It's a big decision for a parent, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
and they're looking out for you. But even in that moment, the role he played was to ensure that he asks me the right questions so that I find the answers within myself and then take an independent decision. And so he's the one who actually had role model what being a coach means in my life. And throughout, even till date, he plays that same role.
Same role. Wow.
Even when I have an important decision to make, the first person I will call up is my dad.
Dad.
And he will listen, ask me questions, and draw out the answer from me because he knows that once the answer comes from me, it's my decision. And I am responsible for both the good and the consequences of that decision. As compared to if he told me, you got to do this.
Do this. Okay.
And if I did that, then what ends up happening is then I obviously end up blaming him or blaming any other people, which is what tends to happen for a lot of us.
A lot of us, yes. Wow. And from there, the coaching started, and you got the taste of coaching right there at your home, and then you shifted to economics.
Yeah, so I studied economics in Xavier's for 4 years and for 3 years. And throughout my college, I think I spent more time outside my classes than inside. I was always that student, right? I was part of a beautiful student organization called ISEC.
ISEC.
And in ISEC, I got the fascinating opportunity to, to learn so much about.
Can you share something about ISEC for the audience?
Yeah, ISEC is a student organization that basically helps you build leadership skills in by taking on global opportunities where you actually lead almost like you're setting up your own company and you have different roles in the company. Okay. And you facilitate student exchanges between countries. And your role is to help bring people from other countries and other cultures and bring them into India and help them see different parts of India. Okay. So there are different departments within ISEC, from communications to business development to student exchange. And I remember leading the business development okay. vertical in ISEC for my local chapter in Bombay. And I think that was one of a pivotal shift that actually led me towards coaching, because it was one of those times when I remember speaking to so many students,
okay,
my age, my peers, and realizing that everyone has so much potential inside them, right? And everyone's seeking that. And yet, very few know how to tap into that in the highest, best possible way. And even as a leader of a local chapter within Bombay, I remember realizing that there are so many people who don't speak much, but who have such fascinating potential inside them. And I always remember asking myself, how do I bring out the best in this person? Again, that was a huge part of that led me to pursue coaching as a career later on.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. And I heard ISEC many times, and in Life Plugin also, Gautam and everyone. And the ISEC literally shifted many of the lives of many people. And here I want to just touch upon, you have also touched about if someone who don't want to speak up, but they are having very big potential, human potential. And so it remembered myself, because I was also not speaking in my school, college, I don't know I have ever spoken a word in school, in college, and after the office, I started slowly, little bit. So I was considering myself introvert, introvert, introvert. And today, if my college colleagues and school colleagues, if they hear my podcast, they don't even recognize that this is the same Rakesh. So it all means whenever I started to believing in myself, I started to open up, and I also started to believe in coaching. So I just wanted to add about that.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
and
I think the biggest thing that Rakesh, I've learned over the years is that the world today is always looking at, bringing up people who speak a lot.
people.
But I feel like there is also a magic and a superpower amongst those who love to listen. And I found that it's not just the people who speak who are, the more confident or the more intelligent ones. But I've often found that the ones who actually listen deeply, not just to what's being said, but what's not being said, what's being expressed but not being heard, are the ones who, in today's world where everyone's speaking, are the ones who are actually finding patterns and connections in what's happening.
Actually happening.
It's actually happening.
Yes.
Right? Because they are not just waiting to speak out, they're actually maintaining and enjoying the silence to actually see what's happening. And silence and listening is a huge part of the role that I play as a coach.
As a coach, yes.
Right? Where in any coaching conversation, my thumb rule for me is if I have a 60-minute conversation, can I speak for less than 10 minutes? That's it.
Okay, that is the target. Yeah, yeah, that is the goal. Yeah.
50 minutes, I am just listening because I know there is so much more I'm going to learn about that person when I'm listening to them and I'm creating space for them to speak out and listen to themselves too.
Yeah, super powerful. And let me add here again with my story because after at the age of 35, 36, I started to introspect that why I'm introvert, why I'm introvert. And then I shifted the flip side. I flipped my mindset that no, means I'm not introvert. I'm having 35 years of experience of listening.
Yeah.
I'm a PhD in listening. So that completely shifted my means my world, and then I started to listen more, and then only I came to coaching business and like that. So that's how I learned coaching, listening, understanding, because I don't have to speak up whenever in my conversation. And but let's explore how you means develop the skill of listening.
So before I share with you the skill of listening, I wanted to go back to your question about how did I get into coaching?
Coaching, yes.
Right? I think the 15-year journey, if I fast forward it a lot, I've realized that in life, there are a few things that each one of us enjoys doing. For me, every single time I looked back and I had to reflect on different times in my life when everything outside felt great, but something inside felt missing.
Missing, okay.
And this happened multiple times. One was that engineering decision that I took, where it felt from the outside, if you asked any of my friends, they said, here's a guy who studied for 2.5 years, does really well, will do great in engineering, but something felt off inside. Right? Second time, I remember joining my first job after Xavier's, working for 3 years there as a consultant, strategy consultant, fastest growing person within the company, got roles in front end consulting that most others would dream of.
Okay.
Right? From the lens of my friends, I was doing really, really well. Right? But after 3 years, I realized inside something felt missing.
Missing, okay.
Right? And every single time I decided to trust that. You use the word believe. It's one of my favorite words. Because in those moments when something feels misaligned, right? I think the biggest thing we can do is trust ourselves to take that leap of faith. Just like you've just taken, Rakesh.
Yes.
Which you were sharing with me, where you've taken the leap of faith of leaving a career that you've spent 17 years in to pursue something that feels so much more aligned to you.
Yes.
Right? Not that your career was not, but this feels like your next calling.
Yes.
Right? And the third time I took that same decision was when I joined Mindvalley.
Mindvalley.
And I built multiple businesses within Mindvalley for them, took on multiple roles, helped the founder launch his first New York Times best-selling book, Vishen himself, then ended up joining Evecoach, which is Mindvalley's coaching arm, and led the business for 3 or 4 years. And I again reached a point where on the outside, everything felt great.
Great.
But on the inside, something felt off. And I realized what it was. I realized that I didn't want to go down the path that everyone expected me to, which was to lead a business or become the CEO of a business. What I truly wanted to do was impact people's lives deeply. So I took the conscious decision of letting go of all my business responsibilities within the company of Evocoach and within Mindvalley and saying, I want to go deep into studying coaching because I knew coaching combined three of my biggest strengths, right, which I had been building over the years. The first one was people.
People, okay.
Right? I've always been, as even as a student, as a child, obsessed about knowing what makes people tick, what holds them back, what's their story, what is something that they're sharing with me that is fascinating about them, what is something that most other people doesn't see about this person that I can see. I've always been that person within my friend circle or within my colleagues that I'm working with. So I always knew that I'm fascinated by humans and people.
People, okay.
Right? Second thing is, the reason why I was able to grow so quickly, even in my first job or any other roles that I've taken, is because I realized I have this intrinsic ability to communicate clearly.
Okay.
Right? And I knew that coaching was a lot to do with understanding and communicating clearly.
Clear.
Right? And then the last part, which is believe. It's a value, it's my favorite word. I've always been the person who believed in people even when they didn't believe in themselves. Believed in people's ideas even when they didn't believe in their own ideas. Believed in myself in the times like I was sharing with you when everyone else outside thought, what's wrong with this guy? Right? And I found that coaching is about all of these three things.
Three things, yeah.
Being fascinated about people,
People.
Communicating clearly, which is both about speaking and listening, and then believing in them and their ideas so that they can become the absolute best version of themselves.
Super.
So it was the trust to say that these are the three strengths, and I want to pursue these strengths that led me to coaching.
Coaching, okay.
And today I can say safely that coaching is the biggest gift that keeps on giving.
Keeps on giving, yeah. Giving back, coming back.
Absolutely. And now coming to your question around listening.
Yes, listening, yes.
The biggest role that listening has played for me was taught to me by the person closest to me. Yeah, it was my grandfather.
Grandfather, okay.
As a kid, the person that I absolutely spent the most time with. He was my best friend. He was my biggest cheerleader.
Wow.
He was the person who shared bedtime stories every single day, before I slept. Sometimes it was about Phantom, sometimes about Tarzan, sometimes it was from the Mahabharata. But I never went off to sleep without listening to my grandfather telling me stories.
Wow. It is in Mumbai.
He was in Bombay. This was in Bombay.
Bombay.
2018, this was 6 years back, I lost my grandfather. And it was my single biggest nightmare and it was probably one of the hardest moments of my life. And when I sat down to really think about the biggest gift that my grandfather gave me was his undivided time to just listen to me. As a kid, as an adult, he was the one who every day I would come back from school and he would ask me, how was your day? And he would just listen. Every night he would listen to me from how my day was after playing the whole day. After listening to the whole thing, he would just speak a few words. But I had the gift of having someone in my life who gave me that undivided, unfocused attention. And that's when I realized that is a priceless gift in today's world.
This attention economy world, yeah.
Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
Because everyone has something to say, but how many of us can we find who have nothing to say but just want to listen to you? And I found that as a coach, a lot of times it's not even about finding solutions to people's problems or finding different perspectives. It's just about creating space to truly look at a person and make them feel seen, heard, and understood. That's the biggest gift you can offer a person.
Super powerful this is, and I was just mum after hearing your stories. What to say, but let's continue the journey. And so here, what I found that your grandfather and then your father, and here I just wanted to understand, just introspecting, how important is the coaching at our home, in our parenting, and how important is to have that getting the knowledge about coaching at our home for our kids, for our community, and lot many things. Let's understand that how one can develop these skills, and how coaching one parent or in home or family, how one can develop this habit of coaching
Mhm.
and listening, so that we have a kid like you and
That's super kind of you, Rakesh. Um, I
how to start means where we can start the
so great question. I truly believe that coaching is not a profession. It's actually a life skill.
life skill. Okay,
And it's a life skill that every single one of us can develop if we truly want to. Whether we are a parent, whether we are a leader, whether we are a student, whether we are someone who is even a team leader in organizations, managers, right? Each one of us should develop the skill of coaching, because for me, truly, I believe that coaching is the new leadership.
coaching is invitation.
If I have to really break down what coaching is very simply, so
Mhm.
that people can really understand and build this skill
In simple language, yeah,
in
yeah.
very, very simple terms, I think the number one thing about coaching is that to understand that coaching is really about creating space to, as I shared before, to listen deeply.
Listen deeply. That's it.
It's 100% about listening deeply. And what I mean by listening deeply is not just about listening to the words that you're speaking to me, Rakesh, but your expression, your voice, your tone, right? When does your voice increase? Because I know that you're passionate about it. When does it fall down? Because I know there is something that's impacting you, right? Noticing the nuances of when someone is speaking to you and just purely listening to it is a super skill, right? It can help a parent understand what is really going through for their child, even without the child speaking and telling them actually, right? It can help
Just with the body language, we can.
just with the body language,
Yes.
right? It can help a manager
Mm-hmm.
understand what's happening with their employee on their team, even without the employee actually sharing with them, right? It can help a student understand another one of their peers, right? So listening is the number one skill, and
From there we can start. Yeah.
that's the starting
That's
point.
the starting.
Foundational starting point for coaching or to develop the skill of coaching is to listen deeply. And here I always say that, isn't it interesting that the word silence
Mm-hmm.
has the same letters as the word listen? Have you observed that?
No.
Think about it.
Silence and listen. Okay.
Yeah, right. The when you really really think about the word, sorry, it's not silence, silent,
Silent.
right? If you look at the letters of the word silent, it's the same letters as the word listen.
Listen. Okay.
So what's really happening is
Silent.
when you are truly silent, allowing and creating that space for you to be silent, and when you're with another person or with yourself, you're listening, right? So if anyone wants to understand how to build the skill of listening, start maintaining more silence in your life. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes every single day. If you can find that for yourself, you will see that you'll be able to find that same space with other people that you are without the need to speak. And speaking does not mean you're more confident. Actually, it means that you are not able to listen deeply to another person. So the first foundational skill of coaching
Sure.
is just listening.
Yeah.
Right.
Super. Super.
But the second skill is actually we are all taught in this world that we need to find answers, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
every
yeah.
time we go to a friend or we are speaking to someone over a social gathering and we share something and the person will be like, "Let me tell you what to do,"
Okay.
and they'll share one, two, three. Everyone's giving advice, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The second superpower of coaching is to say, what if you are not trying to find answers, but you are just trying to find better questions to ask someone so that they can find the answers through them,
Through them.
inside them. So the second superpower of coaching is really saying when someone comes to me with a conversation or a perspective or a problem, instead of trying to give them advice, how can I ask a question that would be simple yet powerful enough so that they can think through that problem for themselves?
And
Right?
it is just a skill we have to develop with
Absolutely.
with each day, each step. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So it's about not wanting to chase answers, but actually seeking questions that you can ask, knowing that when the answer comes from a person deep inside a person, it's going to be so much more powerful, right? So the first skill is listening, second skill is asking questions,
Asking.
and the third and the most important skill is how can I build trust with another human being? How can I truly know that when they are with me, that they know that I have their best interest in mind, that I'm able to be vulnerable with them, where I'm able to open up my own windows So they can look at me, because when I give them the permission to look at me by opening my windows,
Yes.
they open their windows too, right? And that's what building trust is
Trust
looking
is
like.
the
How can I share a part of me that I'm still figuring out so that they have the permission to do the same thing? Because too many people today are sharing their best case picture,
best filtered.
the highlight reel of their life, right? But very few people are actually sharing what are the things that's not working for them. Where are they failing? What are they still trying to figure out in their life, right? Like for the longest time, a lot of people in my life didn't know that I didn't know how to drive, right? I didn't know how to drive a car.
Okay.
And I realized in my coaching journey that if I didn't put out what I'm still figuring out, how can I expect people I'm coaching to do the same? So I started putting all the things out that I was not great at or I was figuring out. Being on time is another skill. I was always late. So I actually put it out saying it was one of my biggest weaknesses that I'm actually working towards. And that actually helped more of the clients I was coaching understand me better and respect me more because they knew that I was doing the work. So building trust is about showing parts of you that you're figuring out so that another person can know that you are human too, you have your own flaws, yet you're working to make yourself better. So they can do the same.
Yeah. Always work in progress, but still we are progressing. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So the trust is very beautiful word, and right now means the world, most of the people we meet, and many of things are working in a transactional way, and it is very less about building trust. So let's deep down about the trust, because trust, that is also my favorite word also, because uh, means I have made many friends. Initially, I was very silent, but after that, I'm now a network superstar. Means I network.
More power to you.
Yeah, it is just flipped. I don't know how it flipped, but gradually I flipped. So building trust, that's very beautiful part you have shared, that whenever I shared my vulnerability, I made two, three friends, and that's the way to go to build trust. And it comes down back with 10x, means they share 10x of their vulnerability, and that's how it build a trust and like that. So let's start. And what is the next step? Means so we can, because it is very difficult. Means in this world we are now trying to find our friends.
Yeah.
But sometimes we are leaving friends, school, college. Means sometimes it's very difficult to pick up the phone and call someone that I'm in need, I'm in struggle, and how to build a friend at the age, at the 30, 35, 40 age. And many of my friends are struggling
Yeah.
to have that friend. Even sometimes I also feel
Yeah.
that I have left my corporate and I'm coach, but sometimes I also feel lack of friends, and how to 10 a.m., 10 p.m., how to call and how to get that friendship building.
No,
Let's
beautiful.
dive deep into it.
100%. What I did a few social experiments.
Okay.
I used to run something called life circles,
Life cycle. Okay.
right? And in life circles, what I used to do was I had a similar question. Can I bring together a group of about 10 to 12 strangers
Mm-hmm.
and take them through a series of experiences
Mm-hmm.
where by the end of about 3 days, they actually become best friends?
Best friends.
Not just best friends, or they can become people who they can pick up the phone
Mm-hmm.
and call and say, listen, I'm having a really bad day. So, what needs to happen for a group of people who were complete strangers at the end of the day to become people who they can actually call on and say, I'm having a bad day, I need help? And I've learned so much through that social experiment that I did. I did this for about 7 or 8 different groups of 12 people each.
Okay.
Over the course of almost 3 or 4 years. And what I learned, Rakesh, during that whole time is that friendship today involves a few different elements. The first thing that we're looking for in a friend is positivity.
Positivity. Yes.
That whenever we speak to them, we want them to uplift our energy, not bring it down. Right?
Super powerful. Yeah.
And so naturally, if you look at the people that we consider our close friends, you will notice that they are people who actually are positive, are raise your energy. They cheerlead you, right? They support you. So positivity is a critical ingredient that I've learned about friendship. The second thing is actually what we spoke about earlier, which is vulnerability. Where does this person give me the permission to share parts of me that I'm not so proud of without judgment?
Without judgment.
Is this person someone who is going to look at what I am, who I am, and look down upon me? Or is this person going to hear me out and give me the opportunity to be who I am without trying to change me? So the second element is vulnerability. The third element is I've found when it builds deep friendship is actually support or reliability. When I'm having a bad day, can I pick up the phone and call up this person? Do I have the freedom and the willingness to be able to pick up the phone and call this person up? And can I rely on this person to be able to A, pick up the phone, not ignore my call. Second, to help me, to support me, to cheerlead me, right? And then the last element of friendship I found is communication. Is how often I am speaking to this person. Because a lot of people today assume that if two people speak often, they'll become best of friends. But I've found that how often you speak is one of the last elements of great friendship. Yes, it makes a huge difference. I'm not saying it's not important. But some of the best friends I have are also people who they're completely okay if we don't speak every day, every week, sometimes even for months.
Months, yes.
But the time we meet, they add positivity into my life. We are vulnerable with each other, and I know I can rely on them.
Super powerful.
So if you are looking to build friends, the first thing deeper friendships around us, the first suggestion I have for people around me is to say, look at the people, write down the names, do this simple exercise. Take a pen and paper and write down the names of 10 people in your inner circle, friends, mentors, colleagues, etc., etc. Right? Once you've written it down, 10 people should be fairly simple, right? Go ahead and do an honest evaluation of each of these relationships.
Evaluate. Self-evaluation. Yeah.
Self-evaluation. +3 if they bring great amount of energy, positivity, vulnerability into your life, right? And reliability into your life. -3 if they actually drain your energy, if you cannot be vulnerable with them, if they actually, are not someone you can pick up the phone and speak to. And 0 if they don't do either. They're neutral.
Neutral.
Once you do an honest evaluation of this group of 10 people in your life, you'll start realizing honestly which of them are your true friends. Which of them are actually relationships you want to invest further in.
You can further put energy into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because too many of us today, before I say the statement, family is something that we are given. Friends are someone we choose.
We choose, yeah.
But why do we choose to stick with people who still don't bring anything into our life and often drain our energy? We have a choice there. We don't have to cut them off completely, but we can choose how much of our time, energy we want to invest in building that relationship. Through this simple exercise, you audit your own circle and you know who you want to invest more in and who you want to keep away, or keep at a distance.
Thank you, Sid, for sharing very deep insights about friends and how to build trust. And let's dive deep into switch gears slightly towards coaching. The coaching industry and life coach, they themselves are lack of confidence, lack of practice, and lack of what you can say consistent efforts. So how a life coach or who has become a life coach and how they can become a life coach and get better at it? What are the steps or framework they can follow?
No, great question. I think best way I can put this is today, I think the bar for anyone to enter the world of coaching is super low, but the bar for you to become really successful at coaching is super high.
The gap is
massive.
Okay.
Right. So anyone and everyone, and even their best friend calls themselves a coach today.
Coach, yes. Yes. Love Guru also.
Everyone, right, calls themselves a coach. But how many people, and I have no problem with that, but how many people can actually, reach the place where they can say, I'm a coach who can actually create the shifts that actually brings about, transformation, genuine transformation for the people I work with. And everyone, I think, uses the word coach and transformation very lightly today. Because everyone makes it a promise, but transformation is a responsibility.
Transformation is a responsibility.
And the moment we realize that as a coach, that it's not a word to be lightly thrown around. Because when you say, I am responsible for your transformation, you are taking on the ownership to truly do a couple of things. And this speaks to your question of what does it take to be a better coach, right? I'm not going to say to be a more confident coach. but to be a better coach.
Better coach.
Because to be a more confident coach necessarily does not mean you're a better coach, right? You can be the most confident person and you can be a coach, but necessarily does not mean that you are
Better coach.
actually creating the transformation that you promise. To be a better coach, the first thing, because you realize it's a responsibility, whether you're a life coach or a business coach, or any world or any field that you're coaching in, if you realize that it's your responsibility of someone to hold someone else's life or business, then the first thing that you will do is ask yourself, who do I need to be, or what's the work I need to do on myself to ensure that I can create the space and create the transformations for other people. It doesn't start outside, it starts inside. So what's the inner game that I need to build so that I can be a living example of everything that I'm talking about to anyone I'm coaching? Most coaches today are looking outside. Very few people are starting off the place where they should, which is to do the inner work on themselves, which is to ask themselves, am I in complete alignment with everything that I say or share with my clients? Do I do the same things? Do I practice what I preach? Do I have the same rituals that I talk about or I coach my clients to have? Do I dream as big as I get my clients to dream? Do I listen? Do I commit to things the way I expect my clients to commit? Simple things. In a coaching conversation, if the level of a coach is shown by, am I 5 minutes late or 5 minutes early for the coaching conversation? I've seen so many coaches today who show up 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes late for a coaching conversation and expect the coaching conversation to be powerful. But the first role of a coach is to embody what it means to be a human being who's doing the work. So that's the first, and that's the work that you're doing. It's not a journey that starts and ends. That's a journey that you're doing for the rest of your life.
It is a practice.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
So the first work of a coach to become a great coach is to start off doing the work for yourself, which is get your own coach. So many coaches today don't have their own coaches, right? So how can you expect someone else to work with you if you are not doing the work on yourself? The second aspect of becoming a really, really successful coach is be willing to go out there and put yourself out there and hear people say no to you.
No to you.
No to you. To working with you, to hearing you, to saying no to any package that you propose. Too many coaches are too afraid to put themselves out because they're too afraid to hear the two-letter word no. Because the two-letter word no is scary for a lot of people. The number of no's I've heard in my life from people who potentially wanted to work with me but didn't, that is far more than the number of people who said yes.
Yes.
But the truth is that for you as a coach to become exceptional at what you do, you have to put yourself out there to have 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000 conversations. Hear maybe X, whatever number of no's before you will find the people who will say yes to you. And, a coach that I truly respect, his name is Rich Litwin. In his book, he said, yes lives in the land of no.
Super powerful.
You will only,
amazing.
You will only find the people who are willing to say yes if you're willing to hear the word no as many number of times. Because then the ones who will say yes will tell you who are the true people you love working with. Who are the people who you can create maximum amount of results in the lives of or in the businesses of. But if you're too scared to hear the word no, then you're never going to find the ones who can actually truly say yes to you. So as a coach, the question I have for you is, and this applies not just to coaching, right?
Yeah.
But to any profession.
Any profession, yes.
Are you willing to hear the word no and still keep going? That's the second thing I've learned. The last thing I've learned is the world of coaching it's a long game. And everyone today wants to become an overnight success. They want to start today and then next year they want to become the most successful coach. They want to start tomorrow and then in the next 2 or 3 years expect their client lists be filled. And I often look at, in fact, just before we started this podcast, we were having a conversation with a gentleman who runs who's the principal of the school that we're shooting this in. And he said, my journey started almost 4 decades back.
Yes.
Right? He was willing to stay and stick at it for 40 years almost to reach where he has. Today as coaches, too many of us are in a hurry.
Instant.
Have you given yourself enough amount of time to go through the process, to keep learning, to hear the word no's, to fail before you can find yes? So if you are a coach and you want to become successful in the traditional world of success in the next 1, 2, 3 years, my suggestion to you is stop being a coach. Become a coach only if you're willing to give the next 10, 20, 30 years of your life towards doing the work on yourself and helping other people's lives and businesses become better. Because that's the kind of time it takes to become a master at what you do. And if you're not in that to become a master, then don't take on the responsibility of committing to transforming someone's life. Don't use that word lightly, is my suggestion.
Wow, super powerful.
The final thing I want to share is that, have you heard the story of the Chinese bamboo tree?
Chinese bamboo tree.
Yeah.
Not really. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to share this story of a Chinese bamboo tree.
Okay.
Chinese bamboo tree is fascinating because you plant a Chinese bamboo tree in the soil, right? And you wait, you keep watering it every single day. Almost 1 year passes. Nothing
Okay.
happens,
Okay. Nothing happens.
right? You don't see it sprouting, nothing happens.
Nothing is seen.
Nothing is seen.
1 year.
1 year. 2 years, nothing happens.
Okay.
3 years, nothing happens. No growth. You keep watering it, keep watering it, keep watering it. 4th year, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
5th year,
Mm-hmm.
in a span of 2 weeks, the bamboo tree rises up from the soil and grows an astonishing 20 or 21 odd meters. I might get the figures wrong, but it grows to a crazy, large height
Within 2 weeks.
within 2 weeks, just 2 weeks. But for 5 years,
Oh my goodness.
there was no growth. No growth, no visible growth.
No visible growth. Okay.
Because what the Chinese bamboo tree knows is that in that 5 years, when other people couldn't see what was happening on the outside, it was still growing, but it was building deep roots inside the soil, so that in those 2 weeks, it can rapidly rise up and grow to the height that it grew to. The Chinese bamboo tree teaches me a very important lesson that I will never forget in my life, which is, in anything that we do, everyone's looking to portray the growth that everyone else can see outside. But be like the Chinese bamboo tree. Spend the time that you need to build your solid roots, which for me are your solid foundations,
Invisible foundations.
invisible foundations.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, in the world of coaching, building invisible foundations is about working on the simple things that will last you in the long run. Listening, trust building, asking powerful questions, and knowing how to stick to a powerful coaching process. A process that requires you to understand what is it that a client truly needs,
Needs.
what is it that is their ultimate dream, and what's really getting in their way, and how can you draw all of these three things out of them. That's the coaching process. Too many people want to have fancy titles and designations about their coaching, but very little time is spent on building these foundations. So for me, if I have just one thing, and if you remembered, forgot everything else from this conversation, I would say be like the Chinese bamboo tree. Spend the time to build the foundations in what you are building. Because that, even though it's invisible right now, most people will not understand right now.
What is happening? Yeah.
But 5 years later, they will know exactly why you're able to rise up and grow to the height that you do. And that time they will all say you are an overnight success. But you know that you spent the last 5, 10, 15 years doing the work that was invisible to everyone else.
It is just like the Twitter CEO said that it takes 10 years to have an overnight success.
Absolutely. It takes a good decade to build anything that is meaningful and valuable to you. I 100% believe that.
Super powerful, and this will definitely give a lot of path to budding coaches and who want to become a coach and who want to invest good 20-30 years into the coaching business. And let's dive deeper into coaching business, but before that,
Hey coaches and want to be coaches, I have a great announcement for you. If you want to start your coaching business or want to level up your coaching business, we are thrilled to announce our formula for building a coaching business through the power of podcasting. It is not just an online course. It's a community of coaches where we meet every week and grow together to build your coaching business along with your podcast. So, click the link to attend my webinar, Podcast Made Easy for Coaches, and jump into the Clarity 10x community. Now, enjoy the episode on Let's Talk Clarity.
let's dive deep into this topic which you have just touched upon with the no.
Yeah.
Because right now, if someone is not picking our call,
Yeah.
we can take it as no.
Yeah.
If someone is not replying, nothing. And if he has seen the WhatsApp message but he is not replying, and we take it as a no and rejection, and that is creating a lot of problem for everyone. So can you dive deep into how to handle rejection
Yeah.
and the no thing, and step by step process, so that people start going deep into the no's to find somewhere yes along the journey.
Sure, 100%, 100%. Before I share about that, interesting that you shared something there, Rakesh, which is when someone receives my message but they don't respond
Yes.
for long enough, you consider it a no.
Yes.
And you experience a feeling of rejection.
Rejection. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm curious, just because they didn't reply, why did we assume that it was a no? Right?
Yes.
Second, why do we feel rejection? Because we feel rejection because we take it personally, right? When someone says or doesn't reply, we say there's something wrong with us, or there's something that we are not doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we feel rejected.
Yeah. Something I have not done. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the first thought that comes to our mind, right? But what if it was not about you? If I had to respond to your question of how do I deal with no, the single line mantra, I had it on my desk
Okay.
throughout my coaching training, throughout even now, I have it.
Okay.
It says, what if it was not about you? What if it was not about you, Rakesh? What if it was the fact is that the person is ready, but he doesn't have the investment? The person is ready, but doesn't have the time. The person is ready, but he is scared of where the process will take him. The coaching process will take him. He is completely ready, but he has to speak to his wife or someone else in his life before he takes a decision. What if it was not about you? How would you approach that situation? Because just answering that question has helped me approach situations where no's have turned into yes. Because guess what happens? When you ask yourself the question, what if it was not about me?
Mm-hmm.
You put yourself in a mindset to serve another person deeply. So guess what? Even if they've not replied, you will give them the time and then you will say, listen, I read this incredible book that I think would be super valuable for you based on what you shared with me in the last conversation. Have a read. What if it was not about me? Still haven't heard back. I read this really impressive article that I thought would again also help you.
Mm-hmm.
Keep serving the person.
Keep serving.
Put so much value that the person says, this is the person who is the right person for me because they relentlessly don't stop creating value for me and approaching the conversations with me from a place of service. Because if you are a coach, you are out there to serve people.
So people.
Period.
That's it. Yeah.
So whether they say yes or they say no, your approach should continuously still be to serve them and create tremendous value in their lives continuously. Money is just one currency. The other currency is time, is energy.
Energy. Yes.
You continue to invest that. And I have this huge belief that whatever you give to the world, you get back.
Definitely.
So you approach from a place of service, people, the world, and the universe mysteriously finds ways and means to give it back to you. Right? But it all starts with that one line. What if it was not about you?
This line is super powerful. Super powerful. Because we always think that it is something is missing in me, and then it starts from there.
That's where the whole thought process starts, right?
Starts, and it goes anywhere. Means it goes all the way to the Everest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when it goes till Everest, then you are so caught up in your own head that you stop putting yourself in the exact place that you need to be as a coach, where you are looking to work and deeply help the other person. But if you're caught up in your own head, how can you help the other person? You're not listening to them. You're not thinking about how to serve them.
Those were super powerful, and thank you for sharing all these. And we are getting a lot of value about it. And so let's switch gears and let's take it further, because right now what I can see is the coaches are. It is hard to find clients, and I see a lot of clients hard to find coaches. So how means you are into Ever-Coach and Mindvalley, you have coached many people. So how this handshake is being done, and can you throw some light so that our fellow coaches can benefit, and even the client can benefit, because they are all always searching for coach,
Yeah.
a good coach, a better coach, or a coach who can align with their goals and values, and who can serve them the transformation which they want.
100%, 100%. Great question. I think uh, I think a lot of coaches today are looking for clients, and I'm going to start with coaches first, and then I'm going to go towards what a client should look for in a
Yeah,
coach, right? I think the greatest thing that a coach can do, try to ask themselves what makes them unique,
unique.
right? And to put yourself to stand out in a world that is so overcrowded today with so many coaches, with so many people out there, know that what makes you unique is not your additional certification.
One more layer, one more layer.
It's
Yeah.
not another additional course that you're doing. It's not another degree, or it's not another whatever else that you add to your plate. What makes you truly unique is your story.
Story.
Are you in a place where you can own all aspects of your story and put that out into the world? Because that's what builds the number one ingredient that we spoke about earlier, which is trust.
Trust.
Because when you're able to build trust in the eyes of any client, they don't care what degree or paper that you have. What they care about is a client, when they come to a coach, that the only two things that they're thinking. You know what those two things are? The first is, does this person get me? And I meant truly get me.
Get me. Okay.
And then the second thing they're thinking is, can they help me? That's the only two things they're thinking. They're not thinking about, and how do they realize whether this person gets me or not? If there is some aspect of your story, Rakesh, if you are my coach, that I truly resonate with, I know that you get me. Now you need to prove to them, or you need to prove to me that you can help me. But the first step is for me to know that you can get me. And that's where it comes from. If when you share your story with me, when you become vulnerable with me, when you share your lessons, when you own the aspects of you of your story that are great, and also the aspects that you're figuring out, then I can resonate with you. And every person has a unique story to share. No two stories are the same. So how can two coaches be the same?
Yeah.
Every person is looking for someone else, and as a coach, whose story they can relate with, and whose challenges and wins they can relate to as well. You yourself said you're working with a coach, right? Whose story probably you resonate with.
Yeah, definitely.
So think about it. That's the reason why you chose that as a coach.
That connect. Yeah.
So my number one suggestion for anyone who's a coach out there who's looking to stand out in this overcrowded world of coaching is, before starting and adding another certification to your toolkit, ask yourself, what is my story? Can I put out my story honestly, candidly, vulnerably? Can I share both the things that are working and have worked well, and also the things that I'm figuring out vulnerably, right? And can I use my story to actually build more trust?
Trust. Thank you, Sid, for that beautiful answer. And so let's come back to the question: what about the client? How they can approach a coach and they can connect. Anyway, you have already shared that what they are searching for. Yeah, means if the coach get it, and whether he or she can help.
Yeah.
And what else? What else can you guide the clients how they can actually search a coach which is inclined toward their values and enable their transformation? Yeah.
100%. I think the key lies in the answer that you just shared, which is for clients to find a coach who they can work with, the first thing they need to do is they need to know what their personal values are.
Personal values.
What are they looking for in a potential coach, right? I want to share a few things that I have seen. I personally feel clients should look for when they look for the coach. First thing is they should look for, does the coach do what they say and say what they do? Do they walk their talk?
Walk the talk, yes. That is super important.
That is probably the number one thing I look for in a coach that I am looking to work with. Where before I actually start engaging with them, I read their book, I watch some of their stories or content that they put out, right? Then I try to see if there is any way that I can interact with them in a physical space, if they're speaking at some place, because what that gives me is an idea of who they are in real life.
In real life.
Not just real life.
Real life.
But in real life. Because I found there's a massive difference.
Yeah.
The way someone shows up in real life can be a huge gap.
Yes.
And for me, I personally don't want to work with someone there is a gap. So that's the first thing I look for, right? The second thing I look for in a coach that I want to work with is, one of my biggest values is to keep dreaming bigger.
Keep dreaming bigger. Okay.
right? So I'm always going to look for a coach who can help me keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And they are also doing the same here.
And they're doing the same thing in their life.
They're like, yeah.
Right? So for me, one of my biggest dreams is to climb Mount Everest. It's been my dream for the longest time. I'm working towards it. You know about it. 2 years back, I went on this beautiful 17-day expedition in the Himalayas to climb
Okay.
Labuche.
Labuche.
It was about 6,200 meters.
Mhm.
And I realized leading up to that I needed a coach who could push me, who could really take me to the next level when it comes to my own health and fitness. All right, because that's a value that's important for me. Right. So similarly, if you are a client who's looking for a coach in your life, ask yourself what's really important for you. For me, dreaming bigger and pushing boundaries is important. That's what I look for in my coach and see if they're doing the same thing. Right. The last thing I look for is, can this person be both my cheerleader, which is support me, but also kick my ass?
This is good.
This fine balance is very important in a coach.
Wow,
Right?
this is required, yeah.
Because I don't want another person in my life who can just say yes to me. See, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs and people who are performing at the highest level. And their biggest challenge is that they're surrounded by too many yes people. They're surrounded by too many people who say yes to them all the time.
All the time.
My role as their coach is to be that person who is not saying yes to them all the time, who challenges their thinking, who provokes them, who asks them the important, difficult questions that no one else is willing to ask them. And that's why they pay me crazy amounts of money to do the work, right? But that requires me to play both of those roles, to be their biggest supporter, cheerleader when they need it, but also to challenge them, provoke them,
Yeah.
when they need it. So that's the third thing I look for in a coach. Similarly, you want to ask yourself, what is that for you?
Top three things and all that. Yeah, yeah. There's a great way to have that handshake between coach and client. And so you just mentioned about your journey as a coach and as a now you are into coaching business now. Last 14, 15 years, 12, 13 years you have been working in a corporate, but it was a Mindvalley, but it was a corporate, and then now you are into coaching business, full-time coaching business. So how you did this transition? How does this career transition? Why you have already told, because there was something missing. So we can start from there. What was that missing, and then now what has changed?
Yeah.
Yeah, from monthly salary to yearly accounting, and how it has changed.
Of course. I think the biggest thing that was missing is I realized that years from now, when when I die, how do I want people to remember me and talk about me? And when I fast forward to that moment, I realized that nobody talks about how much money you have in your bank balance or how many cars you have. They speak about a few things. First thing is, how much impact did you create in the world?
Impact.
What did you leave behind that other people can benefit from? They speak about what's the kind of relationships and friendships you built. Whose world did you make better
Whose world?
than you found it? So I realized that when I decide to leave this physical body, right, at years from now, I want to have people from all over, not just my family and my closest friends, but all over, whose lives I've touched in some small or big way. And I realized I could not do that if I stuck to the job that I was in. Yes, it gave me a beautiful platform, and I'm super grateful for it, right? But I knew I had to do something that was aligned with what my strengths are, that actually helps me make a positive difference in people's lives. And coaching was that. Now, coming to the question of how was the transition?
Yeah.
Right?
So what was the day means when you put up the papers?
Yeah.
And what was your feeling on that day? Or it was comfortable, or it was scary, it was weird, or
Now, 100%. It was a mixture of all of those things.
okay, everything
Right?
mix.
All of those things, and I have to be very, very honest. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? You have all of those questions going on in your head, right? Can you make it? Will you be able to? How do you keep yourself safe and secure to earn the same income that you were earning? That was guaranteed. That was in your bank every single, in your bank account every single month on a specific day, predictable, right? And all of those things. But in my case, what really helped was Rakesh. and I think this will resonate with you and your journey as well,
Yeah.
is that I started building my coaching business long before I decided to completely call it quits from my main job and to say I want to pursue this full time.
Okay.
By doing this for almost 5 years before I actually decided to call it quits, I had built the level of trust in myself and my own abilities to be able to make the fundamental difference in people's lives through coaching, but also to earn through it. And I
Yeah.
think too many people today romanticize the idea of let's drop everything and let's pursue this. I actually think opposite,
Okay.
which I feel like it's okay for you to stick to the job that you have that's giving you a sense of safety and security and start parallelly building something that you're passionate about.
Passionate about, yes. Parallelly building, yeah.
Start parallelly building it so that when you are building this, you're building it because you want to, not because you have to.
You want to. Okay. That's
And
very important words. Yeah.
because if you choose to do this from a place of I have to because I have to get money on the table, if I have to because if without doing this, I don't know how my parents or my kids are going to be taken care of, then the energy with which you will do this is going to be very different from as compared to when you want to do it. So for a lot of people who are trying to pursue, and if you are a coach and you still have a day job and you're thinking, yeah, let me call it everything quits. What's worked for me, and I'm not saying this is the answer for everyone,
Yeah.
but what's worked for me is I started off coaching only on the weekends,
Okay. Yeah.
just Saturday, Sunday, when I had my main job, right? Then I said, okay, now my clients are slowly increasing. Let me increase it to a Friday. Let me take on some clients on a Friday. Slowly, I got a little bit more clients. I said, let me start taking a few calls on Thursday. Right? So I would finish my work and then take my coaching calls late in the evening, sometimes till at night. Right? And slowly, once the number of times that amount of time I was spending on coaching became more than the amount of time I was spending in terms of work, not just in terms of time, but also what I was earning. That's when I realized I had enough confidence that I'd built in my own ability to say, yes, I can make the transition and make the shift. But here's also the counterintuitive thing.
Okay.
Right? That most people think they need to feel confident enough to begin something.
Begin something, yes.
But I have found that confidence is not a requirement, but actually a result of doing something.
Result, actually.
And so for me, what gave me built confidence is because I'd done enough coaching conversations to be able to say, I can do this and I'm good. The first thing I had to do was actually a different seat. It was not confidence, it was commitment.
Commitment.
Am I willing to commit to the journey of becoming a coach for a long enough time? Because I knew once I commit, that's when I will find courage inside me, courage to be able to tackle some of those fears, to those voices of self-doubt, to those voices of what if, to build capabilities that I didn't have. And by going and committing, finding courage and building capabilities, that's when I become a more confident person. So you have to complete the first 3 C's.
C's.
Of committing to something, finding the courage inside you, building the capabilities to ultimately become a more confident person. The more number of times you're able to go through that loop, the more confident you become in who you are.
And the more clarity you bring to your life. Yeah.
And the more clarity you'll bring to your clients.
Yeah.
Right? But as a coach, what are you willing to commit to? And it doesn't have to be I have to call my job, I have to call it quits in my job. Are you willing to commit to 4 hours of coaching in a week? Maybe over weekends? Are you willing to commit to 8 hours of studying in a week after your day job? Are you willing to wake up earlier, stay up till later? Are you willing to hear no's?
No.
Are you willing to commit to being in this process for long enough? Because if the answers to all of these are yes,
Yes. Then on.
then you will find ultimately the confidence to at some point say, let me do this full time because I can see the value I'm adding and the results it's bringing me.
You brought a lot of clarity to coaching, to the podcast, and that's how our podcast name is Let's Talk Clarity. So, Sid, that was almost my last question, but I always end my podcast. This is my last question with we have talked about past, we have talked about present. Let's talk about future because this is my favorite. This moment means 5 years back I didn't even know I will have a podcast. This is like miracle do happen.
Magic.
Magic happen, miracle do happen. MDH moment for me. interviewing you for the 90th, 92nd episode. This is a miracle for me. Miracle do happen moment. This I have not planned, but it eventually opened up. So I want you to go to your future. 1 year, 2 year down the line.
Yeah.
What will be your MDH moment, miracle happen moment? What that will be?
Oh, beautiful question. I'm going to remember this miracles do happen in my mind for a long time. So thank you. I think 3 years from now, I'm going to share personally and professionally both.
Yeah, sure, sure.
I think professionally, my greatest desire and dream is to build a community of entrepreneurs and leaders and high performers who are actually not just working on making their own businesses better, but who are coming together to make the world a better place.
World of it.
Right. And so my desire is to build that community, um, and to create spaces, opportunities, and experiences that actually brings them together in as many ways as possible. So I run something called the Breakthrough Weekend now.
Breakthrough weekends.
The Breakthrough Weekend,
Okay.
where I bring together a small, intimate bunch of entrepreneurs and visionaries every quarter, every 90 days.
Okay.
And
Every quarter.
90 days, it's 12 different people who come together
Okay.
from different industries, from different perspectives, and who go through a journey of asking themselves, what's the biggest dream that they have,
Okay.
and how can they make it possible? We've done about 8 editions so far,
8 edition. Okay.
which means that there are about
More than 100 people.
more than 100 people. And for me, I don't want this to be a community of millions of people. That's not my desire.
Mhm.
I'm more than happy if it is 1,000 solid people who are very, very intentional, not just about pursuing their biggest dream, but also making the world a bigger, better place to live in, better than they found it.
Wow, super powerful.
Right. So if I can build that community and come together to lift humanity in different ways, problems and challenges that we are facing, that is about just us. It is beyond us.
Beyond us. Yeah.
Individually,
Mm.
that would give me my
Miracle.
MDH moment.
Great, great,
So
great.
that's professionally.
That is the way, means we should make our goal, that smart goals. You have set a 3 years deadline. You set the numbers also 1,000, and you set the parameters also. That's the way you are telling, teaching everyone. So yeah, coming back to perfect personal thing.
Personal thing, I think, I am in a beautiful transition stage in this thing, because me and my wife obviously got married, and I think 3 years from now we would be welcoming a new member into our family. So
Congratulations.
it's 3 years from now, right? But it'll definitely happen over the next
Achha,
3
3
years.
years from now.
3 years from now.
Okay.
Not immediately. Not.
Okay.
If my wife watches this podcast, she'd be like, "What are you talking about?" But because you asked me 2 or 3 years from now, I said,
Okay,
I
okay,
think 3
okay.
years from
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And
So I was thinking that you have already started. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So not yet.
Not yet.
But I truly believe that, because I spoke about responsibility so much,
Yeah.
right? Having a new human being, and you're a father, is a miracle moment. When a new human being enters your life, your
Mhm.
personal life, everything that you are shifts, and I feel that that will be a miracle, does happen moment for me when I'm able to welcome this newest addition to my family 3 years from now. And yeah, so that's me personally and professionally.
Yeah, yeah. While you were saying this personal, I was going into my life, and I became emotional because that was the miracle moment for me when my daughter just came into the world. 2010. It was 2010. Now she's 14, and I'm very fortunate that I was in Mumbai, Powai Hirandani, and there they allow husbands to be accompany the whole process.
Oh,
I was
beautiful.
there. I was there inside, and I could see the soul coming out in my hands, and first doctor, and then in my hands, and there was something inside shifted on that day. A new human being, a soul came out, and the whole 24 hour, next 24 hour, I was not able to speak. I was in overwhelm, and that was a miracle moment of my life, and
So beautiful.
means I was speechless. Right now, also, I'm not getting the words. So I'm saying that this will be a miracle moment for you, and all the very best from my side.
So much.
And for the breakthrough weekends, to become this community. And while you are saying what is all about, I'll definitely would like to join your next
Please, you're very,
weekend.
very
Yeah, yeah.
welcome. You're very
And
welcome.
with this, I think thank you so much, Siddharth, for coming for the podcast. I had amazing time talking to you, speaking, listening to you, and understanding this whole gamut of coaching. And it means a lot to me because we have been trying so long for this moment, and you gave us ample time to discuss easily, freely, and share your experience, your knowledge, your wisdom so authentically, so vulnerability, and so openly. So thank you so much.
Rakesh, thank you for for having me. First of all, I know you went above and beyond to make this happen, right? And I know, like you shared at the start, we've been planning this for a long time. So a huge kudos to you, Sanjay,
Sanjay,
who's shooting this for us, and our
Prabal,
gentleman
Prabal,
Prabal, who is also helping us here. Prabal, thank you, and
and
Sanjay,
Vishal,
thank you,
Vishal.
and Vishal, whose campuses that we are. I think it takes a huge village to make anything great happen, and I think it's very important to just thank every single person who's made this possible, including you. And I think for everyone listening, um, you embody the journey of everything that I shared towards the end, which is committing to something, keeping that commitment front and center, finding the courage, having those hard conversations inside you, building new capabilities, and you're continuously building right now. And the person that you are and the confidence that you have in yourself is has completely shifted. And so, for everyone listening, I am so grateful that they get to see a living example of that exact process that I shared before in you. And I'm just super grateful to be here and spend this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the words. Thank you.